Hello, wonderful. It is Sarah K Ramsey. I'm here with Cynthia D'Amour. How are you, Cynthia?
I'm doing great, Sarah. So thrilled to be here.
Cynthia is a dating coach. Okay, so your dating questions answered. She's the founder of Club 30, a virtual program to help women break free from outdated dating rules to find love. And she is the author of several books, including The Successful Woman's Guide to Delicious Dating, which you can tell from her bio already why we have her on. And she's absolutely happily married. Give me a high five on that. Me too.
Yeah.
It is possible. Now, what's interesting about Cynthia is she met 300 guys in 11 months. Like, she was like dating, doing it, before finding her husband James. She calls him, also known as Mr. 301, before the days of online dating. Hey, Cynthia, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Now, we made a joke before we hit record, which is, because people always ask, where are the good guys?
Yes.
And it's like, oh, they're hidden. And there's like a secret society. And every Thursday at 3:00, they all convene. And if you happen to be at Starbucks, you're going to meet the best guy ever. But if you miss it, you're doomed to date the narcissist again, right? Like, Cynthia, tell us what is wrong with that strategy and what's right with that strategy, maybe.
Well, they don't show up, right?
They don't show up. Yeah.
We decided that women don't go or the men don't show.
Yeah. Ooh, nice. Yeah. And I want to point out something, okay? She had the resiliency and strategy to go out with 300 men in 11 months. And she didn't give up at 250, right? It's but it was a strategy. She was dating on purpose. And some of my women need to date more on purpose, right? You're not just going to like be hiding in your house and the postman answers the door. It's like, whoa, it's a post. We'd all be married to postmen, right? They're the only men coming and knocking on our door.
Or the pizza guy.
The pizza guy. Ooh, yeah. But then he'd smell like sauce. I'm having pizza for dinner, I think. Yeah. So Cynthia, tell us about your strategy. Tell us about where to find the good guys.
Well, I want to say it really starts with them knowing who they want to find and all that. The other thing
you can say it. They need to hear it again. Yeah.
It's the internal job, ladies.
Yes.
I know Sarah's been telling you that.
Yes.
It's the internal job. Yes. And that said, most women don't go out with enough men.
Ooh, yes. That's what I hear. It's like, oh, these 3 guys, it didn't work out. And it's like, okay.
Right?
Okay. Yep. Next. And that doesn't mean you went out with 300 guys. Did that mean you were broken, messed up, whatever? No, it meant they weren't the right guys.
Yes. And I had a list. I had 46 things I was looking for.
Ooh, tell us. Do tell about the list. Yeah.
It was everything from like what kind of life I wanted to have. I decided I was a chubby wing woman who met nobody, got no dates. And then I decided I was going to meet my man and made this shopping list because I was a good shopper and treated finding a man like finding a dress, which sounds a little weird.
Nope. It does not sound weird. I love it.
It's like you don't go out and like you go into the store, I need a dress. And you walk into the mall, the first store you come to, you grab something and you walk into the fitting room and say, this is my dress. It may not even be a dress. It may not be your size. And you don't put it on and say, oh my God, this color looks horrible on me. How could this dress put this color on my body? Yeah. How dare it be a color that doesn't go with me, right? That doesn't even make sense. But with men.
And it doesn't make sense that if you don't try on the first dress and it's not the perfect dress, there's never going to be a dress that fits you. That's right. Not logical.
You're not a loser.
Love it. Right. Yes.
So
awesome. Yeah, I love that. Grab some water.
I went out and I decided to be a shopper and I started shopping. And I love it. Yeah. And you know what? What's really interesting, Sarah, is I had 46 things. I got 42. I have found, that was pretty good. But I just had a client get married who had 130 things on her list.
Wow.
And she got 127. So it's like the more clear you get with like what's delicious to you.
Yeah.
I know when you've been in toxic relationships, you feel worthless. And a lot of times we even forget who we are.
Yeah.
And I know you work with your clients to help bring them back that way.
Yes.
But it's really that process of just figuring out what do you want? And then you start seeing it.
And there are no shortcuts to the resiliency of dating. Right. And I want to, well, maybe there are. But if you have some, give us some insight. But I really want you to hear, if you try on 3 dresses, it doesn't mean that all dresses are doomed, that you'll never.
No. And this is an act of love for yourself.
Yes.
You know, you've put a stake in the ground for happiness. And just so your folks know, my mother was an extreme narcissist.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm familiar with that path.
Yeah, I'm
Very
sorry.
personally. Yeah. But it's an interesting learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
And where we learn to just give, you know, those toxic relationships, you just give. This is about you just saying, hey, I'm amazing. You know, I'm fabulous. I'm delicious. I deserve this. I'm worthy. I'm lovable. And this is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time you say next to somebody, it's about fit. It's not that they're a bad person or you're a bad person, but you're saying yes to you.
Ooh, yeah. And that is what dating, I love the idea of saying yes to you rather than hoping someone says yes to you.
Well, yeah, because that's another thing that I'm a big fan of is if you look at the history of dating, and it's about 100 years of history, women had to go out and they dated to find survival.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? Because you couldn't pay your own bills, you couldn't get a mortgage, you couldn't afford your kids. So women had to date, and it was a competitive thing because there were only so many good-looking rich guys in one town.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you and I would be competing even if we were sisters to get the best guy. Mm-hmm. And so we were taught then to bag that boy and get him fast.
Yeah.
Don't worry about who he is, you can fix him.
Oh, duh.
Long as
worst advice ever. Yes.
Right? But it's still true. Right?
Yes.
Ooh, you know, go fast, get him fast. The next guy who walks in the door. I used to play this game in college, I will confess. The next guy who walks in the door is going to be mine.
Yeah.
Well, what if he's a freaking loser?
Oh, okay. And I hear, I want to point that out because I still hear people and they're like, oh, you know, I said I was going to do 30 dates. Right. Mm-hmm. So that was my last date of the year. So I have to make him work.
Right.
That is horrific strategy. Like horrific. Bad idea. Bad
gosh,
idea.
And I dug into the census data at one point, like a year or two ago, and I actually figured out typical age, you know, education. I went through all the variables, and I think our clients are pretty similar, and found that most cities, about 1% of the population could be your potential, you know, person. And so if you look at 1%, if you live in a city of 100,000, that's 1,000 people could be potentially, and I went single age, money, you name it. So we don't have to stop at 30.
I love that. And there's actually someone who did a TED talk on that. They was like an engineer, and they like have you heard that? And they like engineered, like did a their own like software analysis to like find the right guy. And it was like narrowed it down to how many people would actually meet their list of qualifications. So let's talk about too picky, not picky enough.
Okay.
How do you differentiate the two of those?
I am a huge fan of having a huge list. I think most women are not picky enough.
I agree.
Because it's like, I mean, my grandmother taught me, she taught me well. Tall, dark, handsome, and rich. And sometimes it was richer. It was her suggestions for finding love. And we just, you know, oh my God, there's a penis and a pulse. It's mine, you know, and boom, we're happy.
I mean, some of these women are like, they're brilliant. I'm like, what do you mean he doesn't have a job?
Right?
What? Like, what do you mean? Like, and what do you mean he never sees his children?
Right? And you want to do what with that?
Right. There. Good luck. Right. Oh, are you going to be the magic person who? What do you mean he's been divorced 4 times? Right. And I don't want to put shame on some of my women who have been through bad relationships. Like, what do his ex-wives say about him? Are you brave enough to ask?
Right.
Are you brave enough to ask?
Absolutely. And you ask not because you're nosy. Now, you're not going to ask on the first date necessarily, you know, like, hi, by the way, can I have references from your last 3 wives or girlfriends or whatever? You're not going to do that. That comes with time. But by gosh, when you start hearing stuff like that, that's some red flags.
Yeah.
You got to really watch. I've got some ladies who have been asked to send gift cards to the men before they take them on a first date. I don't know if you've heard of this or not. where they've met somebody online and they're like, oh, he's so fabulous, he's so wonderful, and if I send him a $50 gift card to Amazon, he will take me out. And
Oh, that's so sad.
well, they didn't appreciate it, but the fact they even pondered it.
No, I had somebody one time, and he said, if you send me, was it $50,000, then I'll marry you. And this was not like an online person. She'd been seeing this person for a long time. Right. And he still like went with that conversation. It's like, oh, and you get like, one of the advices that I give, which I'd love your opinion on, is like, okay, get rid of the wrong ones very early, right? Because once you get sucked in and feel emotionally responsible for them and feel like all those things, then you're in trouble. Like you're done. I mean, don't get yourself in a hole, avoid the hole.
Totally agree. I met 300 men. I only went on 6 second dates.
I say no one gets a third date. My husband was like one of the only people who got the third date.
I did two third dates, and the guy went all the way with I married. I kept. No, or what, made.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, I agree with that strategy. And I want you to hear how quickly we're like, next.
Right?
Next.
Because why waste the time and the heartache? My heart breaks when I hear the women who, we've been taught, you go online and you like chat these guys up and you're chatting for weeks, maybe months. And he stepped into the boyfriend space like, hey, babe, in the morning, and what'd you have for lunch? And doing all this boyfriend conversation. So they're falling in love with a complete stranger. And to me, the clock does not start until you meet in person or at least see each other on Zoom.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I love that. So how do you decide who gets the second date, and how did you decide who got the third date?
How did I decide?
Yeah. When you were like, you don't get a first date yet.
Working my list. It was working my list.
How did you find out if they met the criteria on your list?
I got very good at asking questions.
What are some questions you asked?
Well,
I love questions on the first date. And I want to hear you say she's asking creative questions to find out about them. She is not vomiting her story, wondering if then they choose her despite the story. Like, I just want to be like a lot of my ladies, because they've been in toxic relationships, they've been trained to like always feel like they're lying. Right? So they think a good date is like, oh, here, let me like be vulnerable with you. I'm not making fun. I did the same thing, right? Be vulnerable with you. Right. And then like, oh, once you know all my horrible history, if you decide to date me anyway, then it's like chosen and meant to be. And it's like, oh, bad strategy. Let's change the strategy, right?
That's a narc magnet strategy.
I know.
Right?
Hear her. Listen to the lady. Right?
Well, no, you want to go slow. There's research out there that men don't make a decision to go off the market until 60, 90 days of dating you. So they will sleep with you within the first 30 minutes. No problem.
Hear her. Yep. Okay. Yep.
Not love. There's a place to put it, and they're having the moment. And so then you hear the lady say, oh my God, the best first date, it lasted 3 days. I'm so in love. I can't wait to do it again. And then he ghosts them. Right? Because there was no connection there. It was just an experience. It's not, that's not a romantic experience. And when they do what you were talking about, Sarah, where they just give everything, what happens is you give somebody a playbook on how to damage you or how to go after you, because you've told them everything they need to know to sweep you off your feet, which we've been trained as romantic. And it's actually, if you think about it, sweeping off your feet is ungrounded.
Yeah. I love that. Well said. I'm just like, if you're listening to the podcast, like she's like talking, I'm like pointing like this, because this will be a video on YouTube too that you guys can find. Just Google both our names and I can put all that in the show notes. If you want to see how happy we are as we talk about this, see our smiling teeth, because we're happily married and we got men who treat us well.
That's right.
And we earned it. They did not drop from the sky.
No.
Right.
No, and it's okay. So the 60 to 90 days till they commit, they really commit. Women, we've been trained to go within 3 dates?
Yep.
Or even just one day. Because you go, oh, I think it could be the one. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I can't believe it. It finally happened. Oh, how many dates have you been on? I'm meeting him tonight. And they're talking about a complete stranger, which is what we've been trained to do See Hallmark holiday movies, right?
The guys aren't watching the yeah, and the guys are not being preconditioned with those holiday, Hallmark movies. Like, girls have guys. If I ask my daughter, and her, when I sing, "Look, there she goes, that girl with the strange no question," like singing Beauty and the Beast, and she can like sing the songs with me. My son hasn't watched Beauty and the Beast. He does not have in his head that if you just love that beast long enough, they will turn into a handsome prince.
Right. Isn't that a dangerous message that we train our young girls with?
The Little Mermaid, you give up your voice and then he loves you.
Well, and even any romance novel you read, it's 1 week and done. They're married, their child is 6 months old, and all in the course of a week, right? And he's always rich, or she might have a pot of cash.
Yeah. So exactly. So okay, I want to get back to the questions on the first date and you being a good question asker, because that's a big deal.
Yes. So on a first date, we're looking for broad categories that we can easily cut. And so you want to, like, the reason why you want to see them is to see if there's even energy, between you, because or in person, sometimes smell. I don't know if you've ever met a guy where it's like, oh man, I cannot go near this, let alone spend a lifetime with them. But so questions I like to ask are things that don't feel interrogating, like, right? So it's that the smooth. And so what's something that's really exciting you've been into lately? Mm-hmm. How did you spend the last holiday? Or what are your plans for? There's always a holiday. And the holiday one is a great one because it tells you how they view family, how they like to spend their time, what they consider fun, how much they drink or don't drink. You get a lot of interesting scoop from that. That what's exciting and new. Is he a workaholic? Where does he get his pleasure from? What is interesting to him? Is it okay to match with you or not? So it's another kind of question. And neither one of them are, I'm not a huge fan of interrogating on dating history on that first date.
Thank you.
I want
Hear her again. A little louder for the ladies in the back.
Don't go into dating history, please.
That's how do I knock him out as quickly as possible? You could knock him out by the holiday question.
Oh yeah.
Not so when is the longest relationship you've had? Oh, what would your ex-wife say about you? What? Like, they're not gonna tell you the truth. If it's a bad answer, they're not gonna tell you the truth.
They're strangers. It is so critical to realize that they are strangers at this point. Mm-hmm. We can love everybody. We can be good people, right? Oh, we'll love everybody. Nice. But that's not a relationship love. Well,
you can love everybody. You don't have to date everybody.
Right.
Like in my business, right? It's a toxic relationship. There's a lot of kind of sad souls that sometimes come along. Right. And I said, I want to be very clear and say, I have a charity and I have a business. And the two, do not let the two get confused. Right. Like do not let the two get confused. And it's like when people in my own life, hey, can I just ask you some questions for a little bit? Oh, you're wanting coaching, but you're just asking. Yeah, that's a boundary issue, right? Like I don't call my doctor, at 2 a.m., right? And I want to say the same thing about dating. Like you have people you date and people you feel sorry for. Don't get the two confused.
I like how you put that. And totally agree.
Thank you. Thank you.
Agree. Well, and you can too. You can be in there so we can save people, but it can also be like, I know one of the men that I met, and I was like, just really, he was an interesting guy, lined up with a lot of things that I had in life, and we had nice energy, and we were talking, and it came out, holiday question. He was going to Christmas Mass, midnight Mass. I'm not Catholic. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be Catholic. It's not my choice, right? Mm-hmm. So the minute he said that, he was the next. Mm-hmm. And that one I might have shed a tear or two over because he was so lovely. Oh. But I had to honor myself, and that was.
Isn't it honoring yourself by just giving him 3 or 4 years of your life and hoping he give up his faith practice for you? Wouldn't that be a better story? I don't mean to make fun. We have to make light of our mistakes, right?
Well, it's the same thing like cat and dogs, right?
Yes.
I'm a dog person.
Yes.
If somebody had a cat or has a cat, they're not my person.
Yes.
Because I'm allergic to cats.
Oh, my husband is too.
I'm a dog person.
Yeah.
And if they would give their cat away to date me, I wouldn't want to date them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because
That's a
what
good
else will they
strategy.
give away?
Yeah. I have to tell you a funny story. So my mom was trying to shoo my current husband away, right?
Mhm.
She was like wanted me to like never date again, I think was kind of her goal. And so, and I wanted like all the cat lovers, like, please don't hate me for this, right? But she kind of said something. My mom said something like, "Well, Sarah would never have a cat." You know, in fact, when we were younger, there was a cat and it didn't like her and it pooped on her bed when we were on vacation. It did.
Thanks,
I had a
Mom.
cat get locked in the house, like when we were on vacation, accidentally. I didn't do that, and it pooped and peed on my bed the whole week. That's the only place it pooped and peed. Is a whole, you know, she tells that story to try to like get rid of my husband the first time that he met my parents. And he was like, well, that's great. I don't like cats either. And he was so funny, you know, but she did. She tried to get rid of him and he laughs. He said, all the things that your parents tried to say, and my parents are, I don't mean to paint them in a bad light. They were just like, really thought it would be really great for my children if I was single for like, you know, 80 or 90 years. That would be really helpful to my children who love their stepdad, like love him. And such a magic moment. I'll have to tell you a story about him. Recently, we were having dinner as a family. And my kid said, why do we have this French bread? I don't even like French bread. Why do we have French bread? It's so crunchy. And my husband said, well, you know, because I went to the grocery store at this time. Usually mom goes and she gets Italian bread because it has more soft spaces in it. And, you know, when she goes to the grocery store, she gets Italian bread that I like. When I went to the grocery store, I got French bread that she likes. And what a banging message for my children.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, do you hear what he's saying? When he goes to the grocery store, he gets what I like. And when I go to the grocery store, I get what I like. And we've never had a conversation about that. We just get what each other likes and are grateful for it, you know. And what a lovely story. Like, if those of you who are thinking like, oh, I've got kids, like, is it like dating the wrong guy is horrific for your children?
Yes, absolutely.
Giving the gift of your children seeing you well loved and modeling a healthy relationship, like there are a few greater gifts I can give my children other than the stability that and the peace in my home now.
And also standing up for yourself.
Yes.
You know, because with your relationship with your husband, I'm sure that, you know, even when, like, I know this with James, he crosses my boundaries periodically still.
Yeah.
And I will, you know, that's my boundary, you know, back off. Right. And he does, because he didn't know his psychic skills are not quite there yet. We've been working on it.
Yeah. But what, men aren't mind readers? I feel like a good dating and marriage strategy is expecting them to like know what you're thinking without you having to communicate it. Right.
Absolutely. Like,
yeah, good strategy. Yeah.
I have a
just thinking hard enough.
No, I've got a wall of what I would like to have. And I put Post-it notes up of, and I put up Post-it notes of dates. And so when James is looking for something to get me,
that's cute.
You know, and it's me visualizing what I want to. But it's been very helpful because, you know, having been raised with a narcissist, I had no opinion for a very long time. You know, and then we were taught, where would you like to go for dinner? I don't care what sounds good to you.
Be able to name where. Last night I said, there's a new place, it's Indian, this is where I want to go for dinner. Oh, I mean, you know, sometimes I'll say I don't care, and sometimes he says, but we take turns. Sometimes he really cares, sometimes I really care.
Right.
And in a healthy relationship, you're able to take turns, which is a good dating strategy, knowing if that person is capable of taking turns.
Well, and watching it for it. Because that old model is like, here's the man, here's the woman, he chooses.
Oh, thank you. I have a client. I'm about to like tag her in this right now. Please talk more about that. And she says, well, I just want to let him lead. I said, no, you're using the excuse of him leading as an excuse to be vulnerable. Excuse to not have to be vulnerable.
Yes. Yes. And you want the 40, 60, 60, 40, like what you're describing with your husband.
Tell me about the 40, 60, 60, 40. Yeah, in your language.
I always feel like this is like a 90-10. You know, and if you look at divorce research, they talk about how men have traditionally the power, and 2/3 of divorces are initiated by women because they finally get to the point where they can't stand the imbalance because of the lack of respect.
Can I get a what? Yes, like that is like half of my ladies, right?
Yes.
Like that's half of my ladies. And at the beginning, okay, so let's talk like resetting normal. So at the beginning, that balance of power can feel really normal.
Yes, absolutely.
In a bad way.
get
in a
that
bad way.
steak for the happiness going, right?
Yeah,
This is the
yeah,
normal, but if you're looking for more of a partner, it's a different game.
yeah. And really think about what you want to be your normal long term. Because at the beginning, when you're in dating, like a powerful, like more controlling guy can make you feel safe. Because they're, oh, I'll just swoop in and save you.
Right.
But then there's like that whole like, oh, but then you need me to save you. Like here I am, the person of power, and you don't have your own power. And the right partner will help you feel your own power. Does that?
Well, the right partner, I don't know that they help you feel your partner, but they respect your partner.
Yeah,
They respect your power, because it's like
they're not afraid of
I
it.
don't want them to go in and think their partner is going to save them. That's
I do
your
not
job.
want them. Yes,
No,
do not do that. Yeah,
yeah.
whatever it is. Like don't
Nope.
ask them to save you. You come whole person, they come whole person.
Right. And you're not responsible for fixer-uppers. That's leave that for houses, right? Go flip a house, not a man.
Yes, that's the worst dating strategy. Oh, I'll just love him. I'll just love him harder. He's never been well loved.
I'm a woman enough for this man. But that's what we're taught. I mean,
that's
so
what
much
we're
of
taught.
this
Yeah, we're
is,
not making fun. We're like, no, it's sad.
and it's like you and I are teaching women how to be almost like revolutionary in the idea that they are entitled to happiness.
Yeah.
Right?
If he doesn't make you happy, next. Like in the dating process, I'm not saying like 40 years, you know, I mean, obviously divorce is like a huge issue, but you know, the early stages, and I would say the earlier that you move on to next, the better. Is that true for you?
Totally agree. Totally agree. Even the little things, like if he asks you out for a date and say you do like a short date and then you go to a longer date, and you've mentioned that you're vegan and he wants to go to a steakhouse. You know, that right there is not listening to you, not respecting you. You know, did he ask you if that was okay? And if you said, well, I'd really rather go to someplace where I can get food that's, you know, beyond a side salad. And he's like, but I like steak and this, I'm paying the bill.
No. Like, no.
This is a 5-star restaurant. What's wrong with you? And
no.
Like, to know how to eat, right?
Well, I had someone recently and they said like the guy was super interested in them when it was time to kiss, but some other times he was on his phone. No.
And that's like another boundary to even get through the whole once they start touching. Because I'm sure like you, it's like I'm a big fan of holding off on sex and stuff because of the hormones, the bonding hormones and everything. And most men are just not worthy. And a lot of women will say, I'd rather do that than lose them. You know, because it's been a second date or it's a third date. And it's like, no, that third date.
You've already lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with your strategy, right? Where you have that list and you're holding true to yourself in that list. And then it's like, okay, well, they didn't meet the list. Not that many people are expecting you to put out on the first or second dates, right? So, I mean, obviously, right? That's a horrible idea, right? So when you're filtering through and you're really setting like, he is not a fit for me, and you're being realistic, he is not a fit for me. You don't get into the physical snares as often because you're cutting them out earlier, where that physical stuff would not be expected.
Right. You can, even if he comes on to you, it's an okay time for you to even put a boundary out there and say, you're really, hey, do you want to go back to my place? You're really handsome and I'm enjoying this moment with you. And I would love to get to know you better before I actually take that kind of step. So I don't want to do that today. However, I wouldn't mind going out with you again to get to know you better.
Great answer.
Just a simple boundary. And if he says, no, what the heck? Why should I do that? He's just a next.
And when you hear it and you're not in that world, it's just like, yeah, of course. Like, why else would you do that? And I know in the moment it feels like, oh, then I'm, they'll be alone.
He's so handsome. He's this. He's the last man on the planet. There are no other good ones left.
Gosh, yeah, there are no other good ones left. But if you've been at 300, maybe 301 is the guy for you. Cynthia, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much, guest. Yeah. So where can people find out more about your book? And more about you. Give us a rundown.
The best place to go is to my website, cynthiaoflove.com. And there's all sorts of things there for them, from the 3 biggest mistakes not to make to videos, articles, you name it. Lots of
Awesome.
stuff to
Thank
help
you
them.
so much, Cynthia. Have a great day.
Thanks, Sarah.